Alright people, so here we have a Leica M2. This is one of the, I think this was the one that was in the video. I have two of these M2s right now. And so I spent some time fixing both of these, getting the leatherettes redone. Again, they still look really well. I'm pleased. And what we're going to do now is, this camera has a shutter problem. So it's on 1 second right now. So we're going to press 1 second. And it's not even engaging. So what my thought is that the lubricant is gummed up in here in the slow speed escape in this camera. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this top plate off, and then we're going to go in and lubricate it. And one of the reasons why I think this camera is fine is because there's a little wax seal. I'm going to try to get closer to the camera real quick here. I don't think it's gonna autofocus. But anyways, there is a little seal right here, a little wax thing, and if your camera doesn't have that, then that means it's been serviced before. So that's one reason why I think this camera is going to be fine. I don't think it's ever been serviced in its life since 1953. Otherwise, it'd have this wax seal, and maybe Leica repaired it at some point, and they replaced the wax. I'm not too sure, but we're gonna open it up and see what happens. So right here, we have these six little wrenches right here to get our top plate off. So we're gonna go ahead and start with the small one first. And I think the problem with these wrenches is, I'm gonna put this as close as I can up to the camera. I don't think it's gonna autofocus. But anyways, these wrenches, they're pretty malleable, so they're gonna change shape, and everything about them is not gonna be like 100% perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and get that removed. Let's see if we can't get a little bit more light in here. There we go. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with the small one first, because this is the one that's been, this is one that's been like the biggest pain, is to remove this one. And so what you'll want to do is make sure you got a tight grip, and then just hope for the best. And sometimes they're easy. Oh, yeah. The last camera was a little bit harder to take off, but we're going to go ahead and take this off. So to the side, I have a little towel spread out with my electronics repair kit, because a lot of those tools in there are very helpful for work like this. And so let's see, I think it's this one. We'll go ahead and take off. Actually, no, I think it's this one. We're going to go ahead and take this one off right here. And so you don't have to put a whole lot of force on. A lot of this stuff you can do by hand once you get it loosened up to a good place. So that's what I'm trying to do here. Alright guys, so we had a slight focus issue there I had to quickly correct. Like I said, sometimes these parts may be a little bit hard to get off, but all you have to do is just make sure you have proper contact, and don't do it too hard. So once we've removed this, once this comes off, you're going to have the film advance arm right here, and there's going to be like a little washer sitting right here on the top of it. So we'll just set these two aside. Depending on what the camera looks like, this may or may not come off. It's like a little felt washer. I think you guys can see it here. It's a little felt washer. We're just going to keep that all together. Usually, I mean, it just depends whether it's going to be there or not. So I have a little electronics repair kit. This is a PH. Let me see which one it is. I think it's a 2 millimeter flathead right here. And I'm gonna leave this on 1 second, and then we're gonna go ahead and remove the top plate here. And we're just gonna keep those together. Another important thing to add is also you'll want to keep everything together. You can get like a little magnetic thing used to fix electronics, or you can get a towel. I just got a towel just because I had it handy. But next we are removing the hot shoe right here. And it's just 4 little screws, and it's pretty simple, straightforward to take out. And let's see, here we go. Sometimes these are a little finicky to get out. There we go. Actually, I'm just going to worry about it on the next one. So we'll get this last one taken off right here. And then keep everything together. Let's see if this, yeah. So you have the hot shoe that comes in 3 parts. You got the hot shoe itself, you got this other little part that goes underneath it. Hope you guys can see that in the frame. And then also we have this little metal part right here. So we're just gonna keep track of that. And let's see, let's go ahead and take off these back parts first. So we're gonna take off these 2 little screws for the socket, flash socket covers, and I think it's this one. These are probably the easier ones to take apart. I'll usually try to get the hardest ones done first, because it just makes it. I like to do the hard stuff first and then wait for the easy ones. I need to have a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel sometimes. All right, so let's go ahead and get this one off. These usually go out pretty easily. Once you remove them, you can usually remove my hand. I'd rather remove these by hand anyways. It just makes the whole process just a little bit quicker. Sometimes they may need a little extra help, but for the most part, they're all pretty easy to remove. Okay, cool. And then we're going to remove this part back here with the viewfinder. Just going to open it up just a little bit. Just a little bit more. Okay, this one's also really easy to take off too. It's not very. Actually, you know what? I think I'm using the wrong one. I think it's this one. Yeah, it's this one. And like I said, you know, sometimes these little aluminum tools, they're kind of malleable. So like if they lose their shape, don't freak out, because it's normal, and you'll just have to kind of shape them back together. This little one right here is all just mangled up. I don't know if I'm gonna return this set of wrenches or not, but we're gonna do that. And then let's go ahead and get to this one right now. So here we have the film rewind knob. Now this one's kind of tricky to get to because you'll need 2 different tools, and this is what works for me. This is what I had laying around the house. Let's hope we can get that autofocus back. Okay, beautiful. All right, so there's 2 different tools you're gonna need for this. So in my electronics repair kit, I'm gonna try to get this as close to the camera as I can, if it'll focus on it. Hopefully you guys can see it right there. This is a little 2.6 millimeter. It's just a little kind of like Y tool. It's like, you know, I guess it's like shaped kind of like a Y. So this tool right here is going to be super helpful, and it just so happens that it is the perfect distance to open up the rewind knob. Now the other caveat about this is, and let's kind of zoom in. I'm going to zoom in just a smidge. Okay, here we go. So what you're going to do on the inside here, my lighting's not great enough right now, but on the inside, the film advance, you can twist it around. So I had a Craftsman 8mm wrench sitting around, and it just so happens that this wrench, the width of this wrench is perfect, and it's like the perfect fit to put in there, because if you try to remove this little part right here, it's just going to keep winding. Sorry guys. If you try to remove this by itself, it's going to keep moving, so you need the wrench. You need to put the wrench in here to kind of stabilize it, and so it doesn't have to be perfect. And then we're going to put this little Y part on right here. I'm just doing this with one hand. Okay. So now what we're going to do, this is how I do it. I just stabilize it in my hand. This is easy. This is usually pretty easy to come out. So we're just going to, oh, this is probably the easiest one. I mean, it's kind of tricky to get this one out, but it's really one of the easier ones. We're going to set that aside. And once we set that aside, all we do is take this part and remove it out, the little knurled knob. And I'm just going to set this to the side and group it with everything else. Now this one is probably the biggest pain to get out. The last little screw right here is sitting right here on the side. So this one's kind of tricky to get out. So you'll just kind of have to go in, and this is where you're going to learn real quick how malleable the wrenches are for this little set. And so you're just going to have to like constantly kind of like reshape them. And let's hope this one does not break. because if it does, then that's not going to be a good situation. Let's see if I can get that. Yeah, okay. And then I like to try to remove these by hand as much as I can because it's just so much easier. And there's honestly really no telling how long these wrenches are going to last. I think I'm probably going to send these back after I'm done with them. So yeah, this is the trickiest one because you can only move, you can't do like a full 360. You have to kind of move it in little waves. And oh yeah, here we go. And then you'll get to the point where you can just remove it by hand. So once we have that sorted out, the last piece to get to, and this top is kind of dirty, I'm going to clean this, I'll show you guys how to do that too. The last part to get to now is this little screw right here. And again, I'm using the 2mm screwdriver from my electronics repair kit, and just go in there and go after it. And then you're going to end up removing a little bit of this wax stuff, and that's okay. Set that aside, and then here we are. So now I'm just gonna, you'll have more wax coming out if no one's ever serviced your camera before. You're gonna have a little bit more wax. I'm hoping you guys can kind of see it. Again, it's just like a really small screw. I don't know if it's gonna autofocus for me or not. No, but we'll just keep that to the side. All right. So, and also one other tool that might be helpful is a little spudger, and I'll show you exactly how. And I just want to say, just for the record, having an electronics repair toolkit is like it's very convenient because you'll end up using a lot of things in the kit that, for camera repairs, guitar repairs, which I'm going to do eventually, it's just great to have around. Have a lot of versatility, sorry. So the next thing that we're going to do, this thing's ready to get plucked off. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pull up on it real quick, and then I'm going to try to get this as close to the camera as I can. So there's these little two dots right here that are going to make it a little bit harder to get out. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take my spudger, and I am just going to push up. Let's see, it's probably going to be easier for me if I do it from the side right here. So what we're going to do is just get the spudger and just kind of push up, just so we can get the lip of this off, and then we're just going to remove the top plate. So the next thing we want to do is, so here, I know this is kind of a weird angle for everybody to look at. There we go. Next thing we're going to do is going to remove this little window right here. And it's just a simple matter of, and also there's a little, I just dropped this on the floor. It's just, there is a little ring right here underneath the shutter. But all we're going to do to remove this is to, you can do a couple ways. I like to do it with a spudger. It just makes it easier. And it's just like gone like that. And so now, I'm going to kind of readjust the camera a little bit and make the angle good, because now this is where we're going to do the most important work. Alright, I had to make a slight angle change here. It's still a little awkward, but this is the best I can do for the moment. But what we're going to do now is take the arm, the shutter arm, and we're going to go ahead and reinstall that just for now, because to reinstall it, we're going to need to check the shutter. So let's see. Let's kind of get that refocused real quick. Perfect. Okay, so we'll set the arm in right here, and then you can just do this by hand. It's not going to be a huge deal. Alright, perfect. Now, I'm going to cock the shutter and see what's going on in here. See what's going on with this escapement. And I'll just try to do the best I can. Yep, it's exactly what I thought it was. Everything looks perfect inside, but the gears are barely moving. So what I'm going to do is, first, there's two things that we're going to need. We're going to need some lighter fluid. I have Roncinol. This is just, I just randomly have this. Any lighter fluid that has naphtha in it is going to work. And then I also have some, let's see, if we, Hoppy's number 9 lubricating oil. And for cameras, I've found that if you clean it with lighter fluid, with naphtha, and go in and put some gun oil in. Gun oil works really well. So that's what I've always found. That's also what's always worked for me. And this is going to be kind of the dirtball method right here to do this, because this Roncinol is going to go all over the place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and set it down. And what you want to do is just, and let me point out these gears real quick before I even do anything at all. So let's get this camera just a little bit closer. Let's see if we can focus. There's a slow speed escapement that's right here, and you can see there's here and here. That's where we're going to lubricate it for the most. That's where it's gummed up right now. A lot of these older cameras, like I was talking about before, they still had that wax seal on the front. That's exactly what's happening here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and just be very careful doing it this way. I would not recommend anybody doing it this way for the first time, just because it can get a little messy. But we're just going to kind of just, because it's gonna come out all over the place. So there we go. You can already see there's a huge difference. So that stuff's gummed up right there. I'm gonna move this out of frame. And so let's caulk it again and see what happens. Beautiful. And let's caulk it one more time. Perfect. And let's see, let's do it one more time. Yep, just the lube was gummed up in there. And I'm gonna take a look one more time and check this out. So this is kind of gummed up too. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put some more fluid in here. So the shutter button here, it's like super sticky. So I'm gonna go in first and put some more Roncinol in. And don't worry about the camera very much, because there we go. Because this stuff's gonna, oh, see, that's so much better already. This stuff's gonna evaporate pretty quick, so don't worry. Don't flood the camera. And if you do, it's probably gonna be fine. But at the same time, you just want to be as careful as you can, because jobs like this can get super complicated. I just want to put a little bit more naphtha in here, Roncinol, just because I want to make sure that we get all that old junk out of there. So I'm going to do it one more time. That sounds perfect. And then we can hear the return spring too, so that sounds good. So now what I'm going to do, 1 second sounds good, so now what I want to do is test every speed. So I'm going to go ahead and put back in, if you guys can see. Sorry, this angle's awkward. I'm going to try and do the best I can. So we'll reinstall this right here. Go ahead and reinstall this, and then we're just going to run through the speeds and check, make sure everything's fine, and then we will get to 1 second, 2, or half, quarter. Perfect. That's an eighth. Then we have a 15th coming up next. Awesome. 30th. 30th looks good. We're just gonna skip the flash and do 60th. 125th. 250, 500, and 1000. And I'm going to run back to bulb, make sure that's working. Bulb's perfect. We'll go to 1 second again. Awesome, sounds good. So now what we're going to do is you'll just want to work the shutter a few times and do a couple different applications of the Roncinol, because that's going to just get any of that kind of gummed up stuff in there. So that sounds good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and it's really helpful to have this Hoppy's lubricating oil with the applicator tip, because it makes it easier to do like more precision, kind of like precision lubrication. So I'm going to go in and we're going to hit, there's a few different gears in here. I obviously don't have the capacity to have this macro recorded, but you're going to, once you see the gears in the escapement, you're going to know which ones you'll need to put a little bit of lubrication on. And I'm just kind of going in here and just kind of putting this in. And you'll just want to work the shutter a few times just so the gears are going to get used to the new lube that's in there. That sounds good. I'm going to listen to it one more time, check the curtains, see if they're all right. I think that sounds pretty good. I'm pretty happy. So now the next phase, what we're going to do is we're going to pretty much just put everything back in its place, and that's kind of the easy part. So I'm going to check a couple other things on here real quick, and then we will start. We're going to start the reinstallation of the front cover. Alright, so that actually went a lot better than I thought it would, because I was kind of worried. Sounds really good. And I was kind of worried because when I first got this camera, the slow speeds weren't working at all. So I was like really concerned if I was even going to be able to fix this or not. But since I saw that it still had the wax seal at this screw, I felt pretty good, pretty confident that it was going to be fine. So this is all set to go. Sounds great. We've lubed it up. I like to go in and just kind of, you know, look at the different gears. I've worked on other cameras. I've worked on the screw mount Leicas before, lubricating their shutters, but there is a little bit easier than this. But this one actually wasn't too bad, because the only thing that you need to lubricate if you want to take these apart is just put some Roncinol and then put some gun oil right in here, and then it's gonna be perfect. So it sounds great. Like, it sounds so much better than it did before. It wasn't even activating. And so now that that's all set, I'm gonna show you something real quick on about how to clean this stuff. Sometimes these cameras are just nasty, and what we're gonna do here is there's a little bit of gunk around the body, top plate right here, and I am going to just I just have some alcohol prep pads, and I like them because they dry quick and you can get stuff clean. So I'm just going to kind of go around here. I'm going to try to clean this up as much as I can. This is a user body for sure, so you know, it's not going to be perfect as is. So we're just going to take this and just clean some of those hard to get places, especially near the hot shoe area. Especially near the hot shoe, this is just going to be, you're just never going to be in there. So I like to clean this area while I'm in here, just while everything's open and easy to access. Kind of clean around here, around the oh, I just poked myself with the front part. I like to clean around here too. I just like to make everything's nice and clean before we put it back on. So that looks halfway decent right here. And now we're ready just to do the reinstallation. So I fixed the other one that I had. I fixed that one before, and I forgot to put this part back on, so I had to like retake everything apart on this one. So what we'll want to do for here is just kind of like make sure to put this little part back in place. I don't really know if there's like a specific name for it at all, really, but you'll just want to make sure that part covers the little rangefinder window right here. And so what we'll do, now that this is all set, we're going to have to remove the film advance arm, and then we're going to take off the shutter dial here. The thing fell off again. It's just going to happen, don't worry about it. I'm going to go ahead and just reinstall this thing. I'm going to point it towards me just so I can make sure everything's all set here. Okay. So there's not really a huge... Putting this back on is pretty easy. All we're going to do is get it into position. I'm actually going to point it towards me because you'll want to make sure that this little rangefinder window part stays in place. And I just want to be very careful here because I don't want to have to open this back up again unless I absolutely have to. Okay, so now that we have it in a good spot, the only thing left to do is like I was talking about before. I'm going to try to get this a little closer to the camera. So like I was saying before, the sink sockets right here, they're going to be poked out a little bit, and it's going to prevent you from putting the top back on. So what we're going to do is just go in here with the spudger, just kind of poke it out a little bit, and then you can just kind of push it back into place. And it should go back in pretty easily. Let's poke this one out just a little bit more. Okay, awesome. And then just double check this little rangefinder window right here, just to make sure that that little part in there is not still there. So that's pretty much it as far as that goes. So now the next part we're going to do is we're just going to like reassemble everything, which is probably the easiest part. I'm going to start with this small little screw right here, because the tool that I have for this little screw on the side is just all mangled up, and I just want to be sure that this thing works, or actually the tool. So I try to do it by hand as much as I can, because again, these tools are just so soft. And let's see. Alrighty. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get this screw right here. And the best thing to do is just to kind of have to go in a little bit and just kind of make sure. And sometimes you have to like rebend. You'll have to rebend this little thing right here. I don't know if it's going to autofocus. There we go. You can see how it's all kind of jacked up right there. You might have to go in and just kind of rebend it. What I found that works for me is to, let's get this autofocus going right here. There we go. What works for me is to just kind of like bend it a little bit closer together. And the shape is going to be all messed up. Don't worry about that. What we're looking for here is to get this to a point where we can apply some even pressure on it. And it's just this whole little part. I'm not incredibly happy with this tool set, but for now, for these two cameras, it works. They were pretty cheap. I think it was like $20, but like I said, I would spend more money for better ones if I knew what I knew now. That's on pretty good. And we'll get to the film advanced section right here. This is the part that's the biggest inconvenience, if I'm saying it in a nicer way. It's a large inconvenience. I like to get it on by hand a little bit. Then we'll just go in here with this tool, and this one just takes so long because here we go. Once you're on the threads, you can use your fingers right here to just kind of get this. You can get it closer. So the only thing you'll need to do when it's time to use the wrench is to just come in with the wrench and just do some. Oh crap! This thing almost broke. You'll want to be careful with these wrenches. I mean, I'm definitely sending these back. But you'll want to be very careful with how much pressure you put on these things, but also, you definitely want to make sure that your camera is tight so you don't have to, it's not like these are going to fall out or get anything, but I just want to make sure they're tight so I don't have to think twice about it when I'm shooting them. And I'm going to do one more because this tool is all bent out of shape. I think we're getting close here. Okay, that feels good. You can feel it kind of tight. And while I'm here, I'm just going to go ahead and like reinstall this little part right here. And this is the little film rewind tab. And again, I like to just kind of get it initially tightened with my fingers. And we're going to come in here. Now I'm ready to come in with again, this is the 8mm Craftsman. It could be any small. It could be any small little driver. I just had this one. Whatever small driver you can find, you can fit in the middle here. And now what I'm going to do is take this little Y part right here, and try not to drop it on the floor while I'm doing this either. So I'm going to take this little Y part. You don't need to put a whole lot of pressure here, and just get it tight enough to where you can feel it. It's just really by feel. And plus, you also don't want to ruin. Let's get this autofocus going up here. I'm going to move my hand. And you also don't want to like damage the red paint at all. Avoid as much as you possibly can. And so I'm going to go in and do the flash sinks next. And again, I like to just do it by hand. Make sure the threads are right. I should just do one. But here, there we go. Do that by hand. And then we're going to take the other one here. And I like to do reverse thread just to make sure that the threads catch, and once they catch you can go clockwise. Okay, there we go. That's on. And then let's go ahead and put the viewfinder piece back here. It wasn't really dirty or anything. I'm not going to clean it. You can clean it if it's dirty on the inside, but it looks pretty fine. We're going to tighten that by hand. Now what we'll do is take our little wrench and just tighten this back up. And it might take a couple, 2 or 3. There we go. It might take about 2 or 3 turns. This one needs a bit more. Okay. In the future it might have been better. Actually, never mind. Okay, so these two are tight. We got this side. Now let's go ahead and put this flash sink back in. We got just a little bit. I don't know if the camera's going to be able to focus on this or not. If we can just like not. Anyways, the focus, you can't see the focus, but there's a little bit of, looks like just a small amount of rust on this thing. So I'm just going to get this alcohol swab and we're just going to just remove this and take this out of the equation. Okay, that's fine. Just a little bit of rust, looks like. Alrighty. So there's 3 different parts here. We're going to put this little black part here. It's like a pressure plate kind of deal. And then the hot shoe or the cold shoe actually comes in 2 different little parts. So I like to just put them both together and then just drop it on to the little platform here. I'm going to switch back to the 2mm flathead, and it's so helpful when your screwdriver has a magnetic tip, because that makes just kind of getting these in there just a lot easier. We're gonna get this one. I'm actually doing this one in real time just because I just want to give whoever watches this an idea of how long this actually takes. Thankfully, I was able to watch a few videos about how this process is done, and I kind of had an idea of what I was getting myself into to start out with. And I actually repaired a second M2 body earlier, and I didn't record it because I wanted to make sure. I just want to show you guys how easy this whole process actually is. So let's go ahead and put our shutter speed dial back on. Just about done here. So the biggest thing with this camera was the shutter dial. Shutter speeds were just all out of whack, but they are so much better now. I'm going to need to do a rangefinder adjustment to this camera as well. I am not sure if I'm gonna put that up, but alright, so this thing just completely fell apart, so we're not even going to use it. So the next thing I'm going to do is put on, let's see if we can get this autofocus going on. I'm going to put the film counter here. So if you can see, hopefully we can get some action going here. You can see that there's little teeth to each little on the inside here. And there are 2 corresponding tabs on the shutter dial, right? Or not the shutter speed, but the shutter button. There's 2 corresponding little tabs that kind of hold this together, and it's just simple as lining it up and pressing it together so it has a good fit. So I just want to double check that it's there we go. Okay, cool. And what we're going to do next is replace this whole assembly right here for the shutter arm. And let's see, I think it was this one. Was it this one? Yep. This was really hard to get off, if you can remember from the first video. Okay, you don't need to get it like insanely tight, but just tight enough's good. And the last part we're going to do is put, I'm going to switch this over. The last part we're going to do, sorry guys, I'm just going to put the screw right here. And this is the last part we're going to do. And let's see, we're going to go in here. And we are done. Let's go ahead and put this plate back on. And there we have it. Let's go ahead and check the speeds. Sounds good. 1 second sounds great. Check 2, half second. That sounds good. Quarter sounds great. I mean, these all sound really well. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell, is to get all those parts re-lubed. So the escapement that we cleaned up with lighter fluid and also re-lubed with the Hoppe's number 9. That's most of the gears that are going to control that. So we can kind of guarantee. I mean, if you have like a shutter tester to test like the faster speeds, like 1,000th of a second, more power to you. I don't have one, but I just wanted to make sure that the 1 second there was perfect. So, and that's it. You know, the whole process, the first time I did it, I think it took me a little over an hour, but I definitely kind of condensed it down into this little section right here. But I just wanted to record this in real time just to let you guys know how fast this actually takes. And the autofocus there's killing me. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to this. If you guys have any questions, you know, just feel free to make a comment, write in the comments. Any kind of questions that you may have, I'll be more than happy to help. But that is it in a nutshell for the M2 lubrication of the shutter speeds.